life is hard, and I want to bring a little bit of goodness and, some humor or some beauty just in some small way to somebody. So I always just had lots of story ideas, lots of things going on in my imagination, a little bit of a daydreamer.
Yeah.
You get a little, mystery or romance or fantasy, kind of like it all sprinkled in.
When I was 5, I lived with my mother and father and older brother.
At least I could draw, I told myself.
It was just me, my cats, and my imagination.
Created protective cover, just enough where he could keep his underwear on.
Welcome, everybody, to In Other Words podcast. I'm Pam Ernest, and these are my co-hosts, Jan Thorpe and Val Gale, and we are missing Karen Sketch tonight. She couldn't be with us, but she is here in spirit for sure. And we would like to introduce our guest, Katelyn A. Brown.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and read your bio. Katelyn A. Brown is a genre-hopping fiction author with an overactive imagination and far too many ideas. She writes Christian holiday romance with a sprinkling of fantasy in her Christmastime Trilogy series. Her alter ego, Katelyn A. Brown, writes culinary cozy mysteries in the Emerald Bay Mysteries series. The first book is Harvest Fest Homicide, while the second book is in the works. When Kate is not reading or writing, she is most likely to be found cooking up a new dish for her family or having a hot cup of tea and avoiding housework. She lives in the country with her husband, 4 wild kids, and assorted barnyard creatures. For bookish, foodie, and farm-related content, visit her Instagram page at Cozy Kate Writes. That's great. I love it.
Thank you.
So, Kate, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into writing?
Oh, well, I have always needed a creative outlet. It hasn't always been writing, but from the time I was little, I've dabbled in a lot of creative pursuits, drawing and painting and, crochet and then I got into kind of just telling stories in my head to myself.
Yeah.
And, realized as I got older, most people aren't walking around narrating their life like they're the main character, but that's what I'm doing as I'm going about my life. So I always just had lots of story ideas, lots of things going on in my imagination, a little bit of a daydreamer. And I guess started my writing probably about college age. And when I had young kids, I was blogging a little bit, kind of using that as my creative outlet, just kind of wanting to help other moms feel less alone and kind of laugh at the silliness of our children. So we're not crying in the bathroom, we're just, so as I got, the kids got older, I started picking up, trying to write some fiction, and led me to where I am now.
That is terrific. And can you tell us a little bit about your Christian fiction trilogy?
Sure. So it's a bit of time travel romance, and starts off with in our present day, and the main character, Avery, she gets transported back in time through a journal she finds from the 1800s. And she's had some personal tragedy in her life. She's kind of alone and gets involved with this family, and she wants to come back to her time, and then she kind of falls in love with them. And so it's her story. And it was going to be a standalone novel. And after I finished it, I wanted to know what happened next. So I had to write the next 2. So hers is in the past, and then there's a book that's in the present and a book that's in the future. And it's all kind of it follows the same family in their story.
I thought it was great. And I told you backstage that I just finished reading it today. Actually, yeah. I finished the 3rd book today, and it's so good. Especially for that being, the first book that you ever wrote, and to actually have published to go on. It's great. I mean, the continuity you have between the books of the storyline, it's really good.
Thank you.
I was really impressed.
It was by the time the third book came around, I was confusing myself with the timeline and trying to keep it straight. So I'm glad it worked out.
No, it doesn't come across confusing at all.
Yeah. Did you did the time travel come to you as you were writing, or did you have that interest in the past?
The idea for the time travel, or
You know, when we start out writing, we're not quite sure how the story is going to evolve.
Right.
So I guess that's my question. When you began writing, did you know you were going to do time travel, or did it just come to you as you were writing?
You know, I don't know exactly where it came from. Sometimes the ideas just come and you're like, oh, I need to explore that.
Yeah.
But around that time, I think I had read Outlander, which probably inspired a little bit of the time travel aspect of it.
Nice.
And I was, what would happen? And I've always, you know, kind of been interested in the pioneer history, especially like being from Kansas, you know, so that's where I had it set. So.
Yeah. And so you do research again, obviously.
Yes.
If you're interested in history, then you do the research to what was it like in the 18th century or 19th century.
I'm sure, you know, if you're a writer, you probably all know, like you kind of fall down a rabbit hole of research sometimes.
Oh, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of, I tell people, you know, you can read a whole book. You can only do one sentence out of it. In other words, there's a ton of research that comes down to just sometimes a few lines.
Yes, that's so true.
I'm finding that out.
Yes.
You know, I with how I write and stuff like that, I don't do a lot of research. I mean, I write fiction, but still you have to do some research on things. What does this word mean? What does this mean? This setting, this word, you know, you do a certain amount of research, but it's ridiculous. I just sit down and I just come up with these crazy ideas in my head and I just put them down. It's ridiculous. I just sit because I daydream all the time.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm always daydreaming. Always daydreaming, and I'm like, oh, well, that would be cool to put in a novel. And then I'll write down a certain idea or moments that I'm trying to convey in scenes, and I'll try to get to that. And that's basically my outline. Then I come up with so much other stuff by just creating these characters that can have so many things wrong with them, you know, whether it be physically something wrong with them, or like I did, mentally tortured or emotionally tortured, or you can pull so many neat things from that. And then it takes it down. That's my rabbit hole.
Yes.
Like finding out more about my characters and my scene, and then I make things happen with that. And that's my personal rabbit hole.
Yes. Yeah, you're like, why did they act that way? Well, what did they have happen to them in their past? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what's going to happen to them now? Are they trying to be a better person than from their past? Are they trying to run from their past? Are they trying to, you know, you can just come up with all kinds of stuff.
It's so much fun. I love when you can get lost in it.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we do as writers. We get lost in our characters. And I too created my first book. I had certain characters, and then I just didn't want to leave them. So now I have a series, and I'm working on the fourth book now, and I have written the fifth book too, but there's 5 of the characters, and 2 of them are dogs. So 6 characters, actually. 2 dogs.
Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, but you know, and I truly think they're living out there where I know where they live.
Yes.
That's so cool though.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, our editor, Jan and I's editor, one of the attributes that I love about Carol is she's so freaking passionate about what she does that you can see she cares about your characters. Like one day I thought almost maybe more than I do. I mean, she was like, she's like, Val, Hunter would not do this. She was like, whoa,
that's
what?
great.
She's like, Hunter would not do this. I mean, she's so invested.
Yeah.
And those are the type of people that you want to surround yourself.
Yes, that's
with.
wonderful.
So do you self-publish your books?
Yes. Yes. Indie published or self-published, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Yes. I started out, you know, just dipping my toes in and trying to figure out how this worked. And I knew, like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I've got 4 kids. And so I wanted ownership of it and not to be on somebody else's timeline, because I knew
100%.
it was going to be, if I was going to do it, this is how I was going to have to do it. So I really enjoyed just being able to run wild with my own ideas and take ownership of it. So yeah.
I love that, Kate. I love that, because we all have, life happens, right? And we all have our own things that we're invested in and passionate about, and things that we have to just maintain our health and sanity. And having 4 children, I can't even imagine. I have 1 son and he drives me freaking crazy. I can't imagine having 4, and so, and I love your, like, you do it on your own terms. I'm going to do this when I can and not when somebody else tells me.
Right.
And that's the thing right there.
Yeah.
You can sit there and go, am I ever going to be ready to do something? And then you make the choice and then you become ready. You make yourself be ready.
Yeah. I felt like I was not ready, but it was kind of,
I love it. Neither was I.
Just go for it.
I'm thinking it.
If you carve out time, because you did art and stuff before, I did too, when I was raising my boys, that, and I got to have something for me. And that sort of paves the way later when you do get into writing, they get used to it.
Yes.
And I found that, a lot of people, I'm a psychotherapist, so I work with people and, hear all kinds of stories about why I didn't get to do my writing or my art. Yeah. And, a lot of times it's just because, people haven't early on made that commitment to themselves.
Right.
And so they don't quite know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like any kind of, exercising that muscle of
it is exactly. Yeah. And your kids get used to it. Oh, mom's over there, she's doing her creating thing.
Well, we're trying.
She's ignoring us doing her creative things, probably more like
she's trying to climb on my lap. I did most of my writing while my kids napped, so I wrote pretty much while my kids were napping. And now my last one is not napping. And so I'm trying to figure out how it goes now.
Yeah.
She'll be in the
napping. I would be napping. That's what my
that's cool.
That's what my mom always said. She goes, if that baby's sleeping, you're sleeping.
Yeah.
And she was right about that a little bit. So I commend you for being able, because I'd have been sleeping.
Well, it was certainly not every day. It's kind of feast or famine with my creativity. So sometimes it's not there, and
we all have that.
Yeah.
How do you come up with your? Do you have a storyline that you'd like to touch base on just because it inspires you, or you think it's something political that needs to be said, or how do you come up with your characters? Do you use physicality of some people you see? Do you use some emotion or caricatures of people in movies or music? That's kind of what I do.
Yeah, it's a large combination of probably a lot of those things. Sometimes I'll come up with sort of an opening scene idea, and if I like that, then I explore the different characters. I did something new with my last book. I made a Pinterest board with each character on it, like what I thought they looked like.
I like that.
Just so I could refer back to it, and that's helped
really cool.
Just and you could, I've got one character who's he's in like pit viper sunglasses and holding a drink and his ball cap on. He manages the mobile home park by the lake, and you can just kind of see what his character is from his picture. Funny. And,
that's great.
I think a lot of writers, people, of course, people that draw and paint and stuff, of course, they're very visual. People that are sculptors and stuff like that. And we just happen to love language.
Yeah.
And I think that we're have very visual concepts of how we want to do things. And I think people forget that sometimes with writers, they think it's just about language. Well, it's about bringing the language into a visual, where you can see it too, context.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And Jan she is definitely the master of setting. I love how Jan does. I struggle with setting a little bit. So I'm in awe of Jan, how she does her settings. I'm more into my characters. where I this is my métier, where I like to dive into my characters. But you can pull so much just from setting and just from what's around you. And I've learned that from Jan and Carol. And I think that's really interesting. The fact that you can
Well, we
pull
learn from each other. We do.
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Jan, do you go to your setting and try to like soak it all in, or how do you do that?
Well, sometimes, yeah. And my first book, though, I have two characters from Nigeria, and I was not going to go to Nigeria.
Come on, Jan.
No, I actually heard some stories about what happens to people when they go, unless you know someone.
Yeah.
But I did a ton of research, and so that's the beauty of the internet. On the other hand, I think it was my third book where I had a setting. It was down in New Mexico near Las Cruces, and it was an area where there's very jagged peak mountains and so forth. And I actually went there.
Oh,
I
that's
actually
awesome.
went to the walk where I had the characters going, and so that was really fun. And I've gone to a few other places where I put the scenes, but out of the country, not much, and certainly not with that one. But I think I did more research on that first book than the others too. So.
Right.
And I had a client from Nigeria, so that's what sparked the whole plot thing to begin with. Yeah,
That's so cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
It's a great way to do it.
Hey,
I started a short story, and I'm not my scene. It's right here. It's where I live. So
yeah.
I'm doing it the easy way. I think I'm taking the easy way out on that a little bit.
I don't think so. I don't think it matters.
I don't think so. There's nothing easy about it.
Right. Yeah. It's just different versions of hard.
There you go.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
That's what I was going to have you tell, Pam. All of us have collaborated to do in between our other 5,000 other things we're doing. I have like 4 writing projects going on. I don't even know what I'm doing. And so we're collaborating, Jan, Pam, and I, on short story collaboration, and we're going to try to get published by the fall. And Karen's sister-in-law does the other co-host does book designs and is a graphic artist.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was going to say, Pam, tell her about your experience with not being a writer, and then, you're a librarian, might as well be a writer. I mean, my God.
For sure.
I have a little bit of investment in the written word. So
you do.
Sure.
You do.
And that's helped, but yeah, I don't know. It was, I just pulled something out of the air, and I don't even know how the flaming poodle came about, but it did.
Okay. Yes. I've heard the story. I've heard the excerpt.
Yeah.
I loved it.
In one of our podcasts. Yeah. Well, Flannery O'Connor, who was where was she from? Georgia, said, if you've survived childhood, you have plenty of, stuff to write about. And that was back in the 50s, but it's true. Most people think, I can't write. Well, yeah, you can. If you've read a lot of books and you like words and you survived your childhood, yes, you can.
I had one full blood brother, and then I have 3 stepbrothers, and I'm right in the middle of all of them age wise. I have plenty of fodder.
Oh, yes.
You do.
Between all them.
Yeah, of course you do.
Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah.
I listened to this speaker one time, and I wish I could remember her name so I could credit her, but she was talking about when you aren't able to be writing, she called it feeding your back brain, and all of your life experience is helping your writing in the future.
It is.
That's great. That's great.
Yes.
I truly believe that.
Awesome. Yeah.
That is so true. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's a lot of people say, oh, where do you find time to write? And I say, most of the time when I'm going about my business, the stories are coming to me. In fact, I probably spend more time just coming up with the ideas. And then when you sit down to write, it's probably less time in the end.
Oh yeah. I was telling Jan that I have ADHD, and I have all this neuroses, and a lot of people do, right?
Yeah.
So, I could never like just be at my desk, I'm going to mess around and find out, hopefully get published. I became real close, but I self-published, but I'm going to start querying agents again.
Yeah.
But how I write, I'm just like, okay, I got this idea, I got the scene, like I said, and then, okay, I can't do it right now. I'm going to go clean the kitchen. And then I go clean the kitchen and I come back in and then I'll sit like for 20 minutes and I will just powerhouse it out. And then I'm like, okay, then I'll go do something else and I come back. I do stuff in chunks. Like I'll do it in short bursts.
Yeah.
And that's what works the best for me because I cannot, the never ending toil of sitting at the,
Yeah, I can't sit and look at a blank screen. It doesn't flow. So I do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, 4 kids, you have to.
If I'm like, washing dishes or, folding laundry, or I do really well. Like if I can go on a walk, but that doesn't always happen. But like when I'm doing something that's kind of mundane, I try to keep my story going in my head. So that when I sit down, it's ready to go.
Right.
That's smart. I keep like Google Sheets, and I was laughing with these guys because I started out with just one Google Sheet and it's just titled, in other words, story. That's all it says. And then, out of that short story, it's now spawned like 30 other sheets
That's how
of
it works.
stuff like side characters and locations.
Yes.
And, descriptions. Oh my gosh. Ridiculous. I mean, where do you stop?
You never do. I just for example, just
editors help with that. Yeah. I mean, editors help with that. Oh, what's that?
100 words every adult should know because I don't have enough paper with words all over them. So 100 words that adults should know that are writers, which is actually really freaking cool.
Yeah.
And then I have, this is my favorite because I struggle with this, sentence starters.
Oh, yeah.
How to start sentences.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's just a plethora of information, like you said, a Pinterest board, your own dream board. That's how I do it. I have a vision board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then take ideas. I'll just put a word and then I'll expand like a whole freaking paragraph or a whole scene off that word.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
So cool.
I was just going to say series. I have heard from many authors that have had success with series, but that's the way to go about it. That actually, the woman we're going to have on 2 weeks from now, Sonia, asked help me out, Pam, her last name.
Estevio?
Thank you. That's just my ADHD not being able to comes out wrong. She is doing has done a 3-book series. And I guess that's what agents are really, really looking for. They want you to grab that first
3 books is a series that 2 is not, but 3 is a series. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first book will get, like your base audience, who's going to, you get them hooked in and then who's going to, like purchase it and buy it. But I think that all changes though too, what you really want to do. Cause I was all about, I want to sell and I want to do this and I want to make money. And I do not get me wrong, but it changes. Have you noticed it changes what you want to do with it? And now I just want to inspire people. And if somebody buys it, that's great. I have my own living that I make, but it'd be nice to have income, but that's not why I do it now so much, really, tell you the truth.
Yeah, I agree. I'm lucky that we don't have to rely on my book sales.
We're starving.
Yeah.
All of us.
But yeah, I kind of agree. Like, life is hard, and I want to bring a little bit of goodness and, some humor or some beauty just in some small way to somebody. So that's what I hope comes out of my stories. I hope, even if they don't reach very many people, hopefully the readers that I do have, they go away feeling a little bit better about life.
Well, let's face it, it's a word of mouth process, really.
Yes, it is.
So someone reads your book, loves it, they're gonna recommend it to someone else. And that, and it grows. And it's a slow process. Of course, when we all start thinking, oh God, I just launched my first book, gonna get a bunch of readers, and then no.
Surprise. And what's messed up is, and it's not that I guarantee we are all quality writers. We all write really, really well. All of us. And that's not a reflection of your work. And once you realize that it's not a deficit you have, It's really, really not. And it's more of what's popular in the market. It's more of what
Yeah.
people are gravitating to, and you might be, selling something different to a
Mhm.
different, like mine's a very specific audience. But I have reached a lot of people that are not in my specific audience, which even makes me a lot happier
Yeah.
that it's said that my work has helped them,
Yes.
you know?
And I
And
think, yeah, with indie publishing, you can reach those niche markets that are not like a big publisher is not going to pick up your book, but there is a market
Right.
for it.
Yeah.
All of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And most writers are, we tend to be introverts. So, marketing is a whole other world that,
Mhm.
doesn't come naturally for most writers. And so you have to learn, how to do it for yourself.
Right.
What works, what doesn't. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a learning process for sure. I don't have that
Mhm.
figured out yet, but
Oh, you'll be doing it the rest of your life.
yeah.
The marketing is what scares me the most. I
Oh,
don't
it's
even know.
horrible.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no clue.
Do you have your own team, Kate, that you've like everybody that's been in writing for a while, kind of like has their own team that's helped them, an editor, a book person, somebody that's a
Right.
data reader.
I should probably be, I'm trying to get a little bit better about like kind of networking with other authors and that kind of thing. I do my own editing currently. I'm a little bit of a word nerd. So
I was going to say, I can't
I
believe you don't have an editor.
well, I my dad used to he would read all my stuff and he would text me all my errors.
Oh,
But anyway, he passed a couple of years ago. So but I do enjoy the editing process.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like
Some
that.
people can do their own editing.
I can't. No way.
Well, you can, Val. Yeah, I mean, but again,
I can.
yeah, you sort of.
But I do have, I have
combination.
people who will, put eyes on it for me, and I have, I hire the cover art. I have a couple of different artists who have done that. The Christmas series is called Ampersand Design, and then the mystery is called Pixel Squirrel Studios. So they've done my artwork. I definitely.
that's great. I love that name.
Yeah.
I'll take this second while we're talking about that to go ahead and pull it up so we can see the cover art because it's beautiful.
Yeah, they both did a great job.
That is beautiful. Tale of Christmas Past, Tale of Christmas Future. Oh, it's like you said, it's kind of like what Charles Dickens in a way, the past,
it's
present.
a little bit of a nod to that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You guys, it's so good too. Because I think I was talking to you last night, Kate, and was like, I started book 1 and then I finished book 3 today.
You read all of this.
Ripped through them, man. They were that good. They were that good. And they're not, they're not really long either.
Yeah,
so
they're quick.
Yeah, they're quick reads and yeah.
Is it like a novella? Do you like to have it less than 40,000 words?
The first one is a novella. The second two are official novel length. Like I said, I wasn't planning to make it a series, and I just wanted to write a little Christmas story, and then it kind of it grew out from that.
Yeah.
What work do you have going on, you think, in the future? And you're going to try to query literary agents? You're going to keep going the self-publishing route, you think?
For now, I'm going to keep going the self-publishing route. I have a second mystery book I'm working on. I do have some like children's like picture book manuscripts that I've written, and
those are hot. Those are hot, Kate. Those go.
Married, and I haven't had any luck with those. But I keep trying. My 13-year-old daughter, she's an artist and really, really talented. I keep trying to get her to illustrate those for me. Maybe if we can.
Wonderful.
Both my older daughters are really talented with drawing, and I was like, it'd be really fun if we could, collaborate on that in the future.
Absolutely.
How cool would that be?
That would be wonderful.
So
that would be awesome.
That's the plan. I mean, continue self-publishing, and I've got some ideas for more novels, but the manuscripts for children's books I think would be really fun too. So.
And that's a good marketing strategy too.
Yeah.
That's
a hot topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
children's books, like, are really is a hot topic, you know, and any kind of, I mean, honestly, any kind of diversity, whether you have a handicap character,
Right.
you know, any kind of diversities, you know, is a hot topic too, you know.
Yes, for sure.
And but yeah, that'd be great, like to have a family collaboration.
That would be so fun. Yeah.
I think that'd be a niche in itself, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we've
So-
talked for years about, Kate's been in our library. So, you know, we have Luna, the library cat.
Yes.
We've talked for years about writing a book about Luna and all of her adventures.
Oh, yes.
How fun would that be?
That was so
That'd
fun.
be so fun.
Yeah, I'm always trying. I always see Pam in the library pretty frequently. Coming with my horde of children, and yeah, I try to keep them from chasing Luna and like torturing her. I'm like, you know, be sweet.
She stands up for herself pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, she's telling you what she's thinking about you. So,
Oh yeah, you can hear the
Yeah.
thing. It's like, okay, it's time to back off.
right. I'm sure she's got lots of stories to tell too.
That would be a
Right.
fabulous book, you guys. One of you guys should do it or collaborate. You know how fun that would be?
You never know. That would be pretty cool.
It
Yeah.
would
Write
be.
about the cat's perspective in the library with all the people that come in. Oh, that'd be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Ginger, she works there with me, and she has written. I don't know if you've seen it. It's just like it's not a published. It's just basically the
I have
hand
seen that.
bound.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, Ginger wrote that, and it's
Oh, I
really
didn't know
cute.
Yeah, I didn't realize that she wrote that. I'll have to look at it again next time we're in there.
Yeah, it's really good.
Mhm.
Let me pull up the other cover. I love this too. Very contemporary.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's a great cover. It's lovely.
And I read
like
this
it.
one right after we got it at the library, and
Mhm.
I'm a sucker for cozy mysteries anyway.
Yes. Mhm.
And I remember reading it and then thought it was great. You know, I think I was telling Jen, hey, you should try this one out. It's pretty good. And she's like, that's local author. And I'm like, who? And she says it's Katelyn. And I was like, you're kidding me. That's
Yeah.
like, this is just as good, if not better, than a lot of the cozy mysteries that we have in the library.
Thank you.
I'm not kidding.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Yeah, this one has been really, really fun. These characters just crack me up. And, you know, I love my other series, but it's very, very sweet and really earnest. And this one was a lot more like, they're just so sarcastic and snarky to each other that that was really fun to explore. And, you know, the small town, she's coming back home after having left for 12 years and she's got broken relationships. And meanwhile, she's got this sort of sixth sense that she's tried to suppress and now it's coming back. And that helps her as she's trying to solve this mystery.
It's great. And it's got a Halloween theme to it.
Yes.
A lot of it through it. So yeah, I really like that too.
Thank you.
It's
Jan,
good. And I love the cover.
Sorry. Yeah, the cover's great. I was going to ask Kate, and Jan usually asks this. When did you realize that you were different, that you wanted, Jan? What's the question you usually ask? When did you know you were different?
Question, you know, how far back do you remember? Usually we all, somewhere along the way in our childhood,
Mhm.
you knew you were kind of different from the other kids. You were that
Mhm.
dreamy kid who liked to tell stories and make up stuff.
Right.
Do you have a memory or memories around that?
I don't know if there was a certain moment, but I was a library kid. I feel like I lived at the library.
Okay.
When I was probably 7, 8, 9, we lived a couple of blocks from our little town library. And it's the 90s. I was allowed to go by myself, walk there. And just I read all their Nancy Drew books, all the Babysitters Club books. And as all my elementary years, my mom worked at our school library. So I was there after school, you know, and just being surrounded by books and just devouring all of them, you know. I wanted to, you know, come up with my own stories and they inspired me. So
Yeah.
I've always heard that if you can't find what you want to read, then write it.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yes.
So it must be a shock to hear that these days kids don't read anymore. I hear that all the time. why should I bother to read? Because it was something that, in my generation that everybody read.
Yes.
You just did.
Yeah. And I mean, I wouldn't say that's true for everybody, because I do think that there are a lot of books that are capturing kids' imaginations. But it is different than when we were
Yeah.
younger. There's more things vying for their attention, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And kids don't remember. Well, the joy of, snuggling in a corner and, reading a book for half the day or all day. And it's kids are so fast paced now that that seems to be something that's gotten lost by the wayside.
Right. Yeah. I would love to make reading cool again.
Right.
That's the idea. Make reading cool again.
I would love that too. We need more people in the libraries.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a slogan. Really?
Yes.
Make reading cool again.
Yeah, that could be a slogan.
Yeah.
I remember being a child. That was the only place, I would I remember taking books and hiding them behind other books so nobody else could get it till I was finished with this book.
Right.
I would hide stuff. And, for me, growing up, with all the barriers and stuff that was going on and just not feeling like fitting in, that's where I would fit in, was in my mind and in my stories.
Sure.
And that's where I grabbed my
place.
identity. And my safe place was there, not the outside world. It was
Absolutely.
my imagination in the books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these young people now, it manifests in a different way for them, their creativity.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's always important to go back to the classics. Like my son, he plays piano, and I'm like, why don't you write your music down, write down your notes? And he's like, oh, I'll just go into the garage band and do this and do I'm like,
I know.
You're missing that visceral experience of putting it on paper when you do that.
Well, now kids know about AI too, so
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have one kid, one of my daughters, she is not a fan, because she she's makes her own art, and she's like, but it makes it so much sweeter. Like if I catch my kids reading in their rooms, I'm like, yes.
And your kids do read, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
Because you guys have always been a constant in the library.
Yeah. I've tried. I just want to, from the time they were little, try to get them to fall in love with storytelling and getting lost in some worlds, and being, in a small town, like you said, Val. I've talked to my kids, like, if you're not encountering people who are different than you in real life, you can read about them in books, and
sure can.
I think that does help.
Yeah.
When you feel a little bit insulated from diversity and other people's experiences, I think that really helps kids develop empathy.
It helps them to understand the complexity of the human condition, and that, I think the basis of all people, really, honestly, without getting into a huge debate about anything, is people just want love and acceptance to be seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that, books can, and I love that. I remember loving that as a child, like a character that was totally opposite of me, and I didn't want to like them just because, but I did. I ended up falling in love with them, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to have your children, even though that you might think they're sheltered. No, I get what you're saying. To have that experience outside of what they see.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very
well,
true.
What we're talking about is you can go far away in your head, in your mind, in your imagination. You can travel.
Yep.
As you're doing in your stories. And that, I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And kids who aren't reading are missing out.
Mm-hmm.
I really think they are. So
very much so.
Yeah. Not to mention adults who don't read, but but if you don't read as a kid, I think you're not particularly reading as an adult. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I do think it's good that we have different mediums now, like the audiobooks.
I love audiobooks. I love them. I do.
people who struggle to read, a physical book, if they can listen to it while they're being active. That's how my
Yes.
husband is. He listens to a lot of audiobooks. He doesn't sit and read too much, but he will listen to a lot of books.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it's what at first I was, oh no, it's not going to be the same. But I was telling my sister-in-law, Karen, who's part of our group, was not here. Karen, try one of the audio, and now she's hooked.
Yeah.
Oh, so, wow.
That's awesome.
What was
I
fun
go
with
back and
that?
forth. It just depends,
Yeah.
on what I'm doing, because like at night I'm reading on a Kindle app on my phone, but or Everend or whatever. And then if I'm in the car, I'm listening to an audiobook, or doing work or whatever, I'm listening to an audiobook. But I still love the smell of an actual
Oh yeah.
book.
Oh yeah, I live in
Yeah.
a Sargasso Sea of books. I mean, actually, when my kids were young, I used to buy all the old, beautifully printed kids' books and all kinds of books. And I thought, oh God, either they're going to hate books or they're going to, well, they both have a lot of books, but we collect books.
Right.
It's not. I sometimes I think got to stop.
In my hallway.
I trip
For
over
me, audiobooks, I should start it because I think my next book, I'm going to make it more available to do audiobooks. Because, like I'm saying, this is just my book right here. Kate.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And so what
Gorgeous
I'm saying,
cover.
Yes.
thank you. It was expensive. I went with Karen. But like for me, I love a book, but honestly, because of my lack of hand, and I'll still try to fight, and I'll be like, I can do this. I can do, but it's kind of a pain, to do it. So, I've turned to Kindle and okay, Pam. I know.
You know what I'm thinking of, don't
I
you?
know, Pam. All right, Pam, what? What did you say?
Okay, so when you got your first prosthetic arm, what did we call it? I can't remember.
Linda Blair.
Linda Blair, because it would just sit there and spin.
Yes. So for anybody that wants to know, we have a plethora of information on this show for amputees as well, Pam and I, right?
Yes.
Right.
So my first prosthetic arm, you had to learn how to use it with muscle to separate your muscles, and it's like a sensor, like get one side of your muscle to work and the other side. And it was really hard for me to just stabilize that one muscle to do it. So I had all the muscles going in my arm instead of being able to focus in on one. So when I would do that, it would like spin around and like do its own thing on its own. And there was this one day, it was just spinning around and doing what I wasn't even doing anything with. I had it off my arm and it's still spinning around. We were hysterical. And so I'm like, I called it Linda Blair. I got a better one. Then I'll stop. I was mowing the yard. In Linda Blair. So I'm outside mowing the yard, right? I'm sweating. And so I went over like a rock and it jerked me a little bit. So when it jerked, it pulled my arm out of the socket. So I have Linda Blair on the end of my lawnmower going down the yard. I'm chasing it.
Oh no!
Across the street's hysterical. I'm laughing, but good
Oh,
time.
my goodness.
So, yeah, Linda Blair from The Exorcist.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was like, I know that name. Where do I know it from? Okay,
The
now.
Exorcist.
Yeah. Okay.
The Exorcist. Oh my gosh. I will never forget that.
Good times.
That was
And that
so
would be
funny.
funny to put into somewhere in a story too.
I know.
Absolutely.
That's where we get our material. Where else,
Exactly. And a lot of people, fiction has so much truth. Do you think that, Kate? A lot of people think fiction, there's so much truth in fiction, it's not even funny.
For sure. Yeah, I agree.
Is that your genre, more fiction? I'm sorry. I know you said earlier. I forgot.
Oh, yes, fiction. Yeah, that's my bread and butter. Yeah, fiction for sure.
Yeah.
And like mystery, like genre. Genre was weird.
So yeah, cozy mystery right now is where I'm at. Yes. But I have a lot of different ideas I'd like to explore. So we'll see.
That's great.
That's exciting. I can't wait to see what else you come up with, because you've got some really good ones.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you like romance at all? Do you like to write any kind
Love
of
romance? There's got to be a little bit of romance in all of it. So yeah, there's a little bit of romance to come in the mystery. So I'm excited about that aspect.
Nice.
Yeah, I kind of, I sort of wish we didn't have to get so put in a box with one genre, because
You cross over.
Yeah.
we do all kinds of stuff, and I think my books would fit into all kinds of categories, but everybody, well, what is your category? And it isn't just one thing.
Yeah.
But I say psychological thriller, but no, it's more than that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's my preference. That I don't to read and to write. I like a couple of different aspects.
Yeah.
You get a little, mystery or romance or fantasy. Like I kind of like it all sprinkled in.
It all goes in there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always make it fit neatly into a category, but I think it brings more depth to the story.
Yeah. Of course it does. Yeah. Absolutely.
There's something I started this with Marsh last time, just reading a little excerpt out of one of his books. And I had one that I grabbed. Is that your third book? Do you care if I read it?
Oh, go for it.
Okay, it's out of A Tale of Christmas Future, and it's in regards to Caroline. And Caroline it's one of the daughters of the family from the 1800s that moves forward in the storyline.
Yeah.
Yes. And it just says, Caroline had been a child doomed to die with no future to speak of. Yet through God's miraculous provision, she had not only been saved, but had been given a life brimming with hope and purpose. The thought struck her that her very life was a picture of the desperate situation in which every person in humanity found themselves, destined to die and be separated from the one who loved them so. But it didn't have to be. A rescuer had come in the most unlikely of ways to bridge the gap between humanity and the divine. Caroline sighed. It was such a beautiful thing.
Very good. Very good insight.
Love it.
That's really good.
Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's her third book.
I just hope, I was listening to some music yesterday morning and I had to stop. I was like fixing my hair and I had to stop and go write it down. I was like, yes, that's it. It was, a Tyler Childers song of all things, but one of his lines says, trying to hold on to the lovely through the bitter of our times. And it's like,
I like that a lot. I like that.
That's my hope, bring the lovely through the bitterness.
Yeah.
And
Certainly fits times now, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about I use music lyrics as well too, and I love it. I listen to music all day. Music and movies constantly.
Yes,
and writing. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite lines. Well, there's a couple of them, but he puts her lips to her lips to stop the lies. I think that's magnificent and a brilliant line. We could go on and on and on with that one. And I get the joy in rediscovering you. That's another good line.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many good lines to pull or to get ideas.
Oh, there are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the internet, because we have instant access to a ton of music and quotes, and you can look up anything. And I have to say, it's a real boon for writers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How did we do it before? I don't even remember.
Well, I can remember on writing my dissertation and driving to the library, and I would spend all day trying to find a journal. But I didn't always find it. And the librarian would say, "Oh, we could order it for you, but it'll cost you this amount of money." And oh God, and you not even knowing if I needed it. So I remember those days. Yeah.
I remember back in high school being in debate, having to pull all of the Newsweeks and everything and clip it and stick it onto an index card and then drag all that around with us.
Microfiche.
Yeah. Yep. We still have that at the library.
Yeah. I remember that in college. Yeah. Occasionally we'd have to get into that.
Kids wouldn't know how to do a card catalog.
I was having to explain to my...
What are you talking about?
Exactly.
I was explaining to my son the other day, I think there was a library book and the dates, were stamped in the back. And I was like,
Yeah,
that's how
yeah.
we checked out books. You stamp the date in it, when you check it out and when it's due back. Yeah.
And in our little town, we did that within the last 10 years.
Mhm.
We were still doing that
Yep.
with the stamps.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that anymore. Yay.
Right? I bet.
Yes.
It was like, yay.
Oh, you have no idea how much it sped up our job.
Oh, yeah.
And then Kate can appreciate this. When we got the new slip print, because the old one was like, ka-chunk, 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 it made this horrible noise. And the new one's just like, bzzz, and shoots it right out. It's so much better.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So much better.
So talk a little bit about, Kate, I know you said you have some ideas. Talk a little bit about what you kind of want to lean into with your next novels, what you're trying to do, maybe when you can expect it. I mean, expect something out, so to speak. We all throw that out there. It never comes. Mine never does.
I was hoping to have the next book ready this spring, but I've had some health stuff that I've had to. I haven't been able to
life.
So I finally got diagnosed. I've had dizziness and headaches for months. I have vision disorder, so I'm doing vision therapy, which is taking up a lot of time. Having to drive back and forth. About an hour and a half for therapy and do stuff at home. But anyway, the next, as I get to feeling better, the next story I'm having a lot of fun with. It's the same main character as the first mystery novel, Alex. But she is working on a cold case from the 1980s. She happens upon a skeleton. So she has to dive into that story. And she has links to the past with some of her relatives and people in the small town. Everyone's got their story about what happened to this missing girl from 1986. And her senses are a little bit more heightened in this book than the first one. So she's, it's like a super empathy is what she has. She can kind of sense the emotions of other people around her.
We call them empaths.
Yes.
Codependent. That too. Sorry.
Hers is a little bit different. She can sense the emotions of people around her, but she also senses the last moments of the corpse that she touches.
Interesting.
That's interesting, Kate.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like that.
It becomes more heightened in this next story, and where even when she's not around that, the skeleton or whatever, this dead girl is kind of speaking to her, like, find out what happened to me.
Nice.
So it's been really fun. And I go off on tangents. I ended up making like a whole playlist from 1986 of what these characters would have been listening to.
I love it. I love that.
Ask me or Val, we could tell you.
Yes.
Oh, song pop. I love song pop. Like I said, I love music. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So she's trying to work on that. And meanwhile, her personal relationships are developing too in the present. And, the police chief that lives next door to her, they were friends, in the past, and they had a falling out. They really hurt each other, but in the first book, they kind of mend that relationship. Now they have to kind of work together a little bit on this next case.
Nice.
Good.
And they're going to fall in love. No.
We'll see.
I'm excited. The first one was really good, and you're talking the characters out of the first one, and I'm remembering, it was a good book. So I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah, they're fun. She was hesitant about her sixth sense. She resisted it, but her granny, who's a big character too, she sees it as a gift, so Alex is kind of coming around to that idea that it's not a curse for her, it's a gift that she can use for good.
That's great.
So what inspired you to move forward into like the cozy mystery genre?
I started reading a lot of cozy mysteries kind of after I wrapped up the the time travel romance, I read a lot of different genres, and that would just happen to be what I was reading at the time. And I was like, this is really fun. I wonder if I could write something like that. And I was ready to move away from, I love Christmas, but by the time I finished the third book, I was so sick of Christmas.
I can imagine.
You're not writing it at Christmas time. You're writing it in like the summer, and it's really hard to
Right.
get into like Christmassy spirit.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to do something different for a while. And I had, let's see, I think it was when my son was a baby was when I got into the cozy mystery. I needed something lighthearted and fun and, get a little bit of humor in it. And I just really enjoyed it. So I was like, I wonder what I could write. So started thinking about it and came up with Emerald Bay. So
Lifetime movies. I always joke about Lifetime movies. It is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine because I sit there and I go, I know it's ridiculous. I sit there and I go, I could write that.
For sure.
And then the dialogue is just like so basic, but it works. It really shows you think. Sometimes you think in writing things have to be so like, you have to use this language that everybody's going to have to sit there and look it up. And in all actuality, what they're going to do is stop reading your book because they have to keep things up. You want things kind of like simple, what moves it along. And Lifetime movies kind of do that a little bit. They move it along. Plus, I like the psychos on there. I like the psycho characters.
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Kate, tell us where, if someone wants to get a hold of you or find your books, where would they go to do that?
Okay. So I'm on Instagram and Threads at Cozy Kate Writes. So I have updates and things on there. My books are on Amazon and all 4 of them. I guess if you're boycotting Amazon, they're on bookshop.com also. And I just started a Substack. So that is something I like very recent. There's not even anything on there. It just says coming soon, but that's author K.A. Brown at substack.com. So I'm hoping to get a little bit, not exactly blogging, but it is a little bit more of a blogging style where I can, write posts and updates on there too.
Great. So
yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you so much. Like Jan and I are also on Amazon. I'm at Barnes and Noble. I'm just trying to think. Where else? Oh, Kindle.
Yep.
So if you just want to check, I'm going to check out and look at your stuff. So I write romance, suspense, thrillers, my genre, but it all crosses.
Do you write under Val Gale?
I do. A lot of people have asked me if that's a pseudo. I'm like, no, that's my real name. I've had a lot of people ask me that. I'm like, no, that's my real name. But yeah, and Jan as well.
And Jan does also. Okay. I will have to check those out.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was nice to meet you.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
It was great. Yeah. Thank you so much. Who are we going to have next time? Who's our next?
Yes. April 2nd, we will be having a colleague of mine that I worked with at a writer's retreat. She is a published author with a publishing company. She's wrote a 3-book series, the Serpent series. I'm currently reading number 2. She's fascinating. She is Korean and Puerto Rican and writes for Diverse Voices, S.Z. Estavlo. And if I said that wrong, sorry, Sonia, but she will be on here on April 2nd. And she has a wonderful following. 85,000 people follow her. And she is just so humble and so kind. And she comes from the trenches, so she's great to work with and talk to. So if you want to tune in, tune in.
All right.
Sounds great.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again, Kate. And y'all have a wonderful evening.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.